And the polls have just closed in Georgia. Of the three states right now voting on the Democratic side, Georgia closes at 7. We are waiting any minute now, any second now, potentially. We're expecting the results to start coming in. And, you know, obviously with Biden having really no opposition here, you assume, and based on all the results we've seen in other primaries, that this will be an overwhelming and swift victory for Joe Biden. And if you see that with the early results that come in, those delegates could be allocated very quickly. And Georgia has 108 of them. So it's very possible that in the next few minutes, as we start to get results from Georgia, Joe Biden will quickly wrap up the 99 that he needs to clinch the nomination. And again, you could just see that would put him over 1968. That would make him officially, I mean, it will become truly official at the convention this summer, but he will have pledged delegates bound in their commitments, more than enough to give him the first ballot nomination. So we're waiting on Georgia. For the Democrats, we are also waiting for it. I can show you on the Republican side here, where Donald Trump is sitting at 1,089 delegates, 1215, the magic number on the Republican side. Trump 126 short. Now, he's not going to get it in Georgia. There are only 59 delegates for the Republicans at stake in Georgia. Mississippi will close at 8. There are 40 there. So Trump will not get it in the early hours tonight. Most likely, it'll be 11 o'clock Eastern time. Washington State, the polls will close then. There are 43 delegates at stake there. And so likely, in that 11 o'clock hour, Donald Trump will cross the threshold, and you'll have both major party candidates reaching their delegate magic numbers, as I just check in with Georgia again here, reaching their delegate magic numbers tonight, locking in the pledged delegates they need to win their party's nominations on the first ballot. And by the way, we went back and we did do a little research on this. If that is indeed what happens tonight, before midnight, and I stress the term before midnight, then it will actually set the stage mathematically for the longest general election campaign in modern American history. There would be 240 days from now until the election on November 5th, and both candidates would have clinched their party's nominations. The earliest that's happened before, there's actually a couple elections where it happened 239 days before the general election. So if it happens before midnight tonight, this will be a 240-day campaign from this point forward. And that would be a matter of some trivia here, because a lot of folks have been prepping, obviously, for a Biden-Trump race a lot longer than just tonight. But in terms of both candidates actually locking down those numbers, that could come, if it comes before midnight, it will be the longest general election campaign ever, mathematically, at least by that metric. So again, the polls have closed in Georgia. We expect this map to begin lighting up. I know Georgia can be a little slow in the early going, but we will see, because any results that come in here, if they're what we expect, it could be very quick in terms of Biden being declared the winner here and getting those delegates and becoming the Democratic nominee by numbers.
See, Steve, this is why I love you, because you anticipate my every question, because that's literally what I was going to ask you, is would this be the earliest that we've locked in? I mean, it is unusual, because essentially you have sort of a dual incumbent race, right? You've got a sitting president running against a former president, and it's very early. So you anticipated me. So anticipate this as well, my friend. If it comes in, if you've got a call, wave your hands in the air. Somehow through the magic of TV, we will see you, and we'll come back. Wait a minute.
I can tell you, we just got our first report here.
Go for it.
And this is from Floyd County. It's 66 votes. Sometimes this precipitates when you see the first one. Sometimes you get a couple more right away. So I give pause here for a few seconds to see if anything lights up. It doesn't. Nothing immediately here, but we're starting to get it. And like I said, I mean, look, it's 100%. It's 66 votes, but Biden getting every single one of them. So it probably will not take much from these counties for that pattern to be established and this to happen. So, yes, I will absolutely flag you as soon as we see that.
Really quickly, before I let you go, Stephen, we weren't going to let you go for long, but how quick of a counting state is Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, if this were a competitive election tonight, it would take a while. That first, we got a little bit more here, too. Pulaski County. So now we've got a third county coming in here.
They seem quick.
Yeah, and again, now 93% for Biden, 100% for Biden, 98% for Biden. So, I mean, you're already just seeing, obviously there was no suspense. He's going to win it.
Sure.
And he's going to get that 95% plus. Then just the way the delegates work on the Democratic side, to tell you what they're looking for here, the number that's Biden's enemy here, just from the delegate standpoint, is 15%. If any of the other candidates on the ballot are getting 15%, they can start collecting delegates. Obviously, in these early returns here, nobody is even remotely in the ballpark of 15%. So that pattern would then establish Biden, put him in position to win all delegates. Again, 108 at stake here. He needs 99 of them. And if that happens, he crosses the magic number. So if you can't tell, I'm stretching a little bit for time here because we did get those three, and I'm waiting on more. It can be a little slow in Georgia, I know, in the early going, and a little sporadic. But like I said, certainly based on these first. Now we got a few more here.
Sure.
Again, 96, 95, 93, 100% unanimous in Floyd County, 98% in Pulaski. And I think there it is, Joy. The stretching has paid off. Joe Biden, our decision desk, has just projected will win Georgia. And let's go back now and there it is. He has now crossed with that. He gets the necessary delegates. We've just allocated him 104 of them. And so he has now crossed the number. 1968 was needed. Biden now at 1973. He's the presumptive nominee. Those are pledged delegates. Their commitments will be binding. So Joe Biden has the necessary delegates to win the Democratic nomination on the first ballot. To the extent there was any remaining suspense, it has been eliminated. Joe Biden, the presumptive nominee.
And it took all of 8 minutes. Steve Kornacki, the Kornackster, as we like to call him, even not in khakis, always effective in bringing us the info we need. Thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. All right, joining me now is, as it turns out, Democratic Senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock. Senator, your state, it is kind of poetic, is it not? It was Georgia that delivered the 2 Senate seats that gave Democrats back the majority, yours being one of the 2, Senator Ossoff being the other one. It was your state that so enraged Donald Trump that he committed acts which have now led him to felony charges in your state. It was your state where he said he just needed to find 13,000 odd votes and asked your Secretary of State to do that for him, which he did not. And so there's a lot of poetry here. What do you make of the 8-minute suspense for Georgia delivering Joe Biden officially the nomination, or at least making him the presumptive nominee?
Well, good evening, Joy. Great to be with you. And although I'm in D.C., let me say welcome again to Battleground Georgia. The country should know by now that Georgia shows up. And there is poetry and power that it was Georgia that's pushing him now over the finish line. He is our official nominee. We know that Georgia literally saved the whole country in 2021, sending its first African-American senator and its first Jewish senator to the United States Senate from Georgia in one fell swoop. And if that had not happened, let me just give you one point. Ketanji Brown Jackson would not be sitting on the Supreme Court. And so Georgia did this on January 5th. As you point out, we saw a violent insurrection pushed forward by this ex-president on January 6th. And in a real sense, that's what this election is about. Are you going to choose the America of January 5th that would send a kid who grew up in public housing, the first African-American senator from Georgia, to the Senate, and a Jewish kid also mentored by John Lewis? Or are you going to give in to the forces of resentment and revenge and retribution that guide Donald Trump? I choose January 5th. I choose an America that embraces all of us.
Today on Capitol Hill, we were presented with the latest embarrassing example of the constant clown show antics of one of the supposed political parties in our country, as House Republicans held a hearing with former special counsel Robert Hur on his investigation of President Biden's handling of classified documents. The Republicans' primary goal was to create sound bites to run on right-wing media, where they aimed to portray President Biden as somehow simultaneously a fragile, elderly invertebrate who can barely tie his shoes and also a deviously brilliant master criminal.
Joe Biden had 8 million reasons to break the rules, took classified information and shared it with the guy who was writing the book. That's why he did. He knew the rules, but he broke them for $8 million in a book advance.
All I have to do when I'm caught taking home classified materials to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Herbert, but I'm getting old. My memory's not so great.
Biden and Trump should have been treated equally. They weren't, and that is the double standard.
Well, however, as they usually do, Republicans failed. They couldn't sustain the lie because it doesn't make any sense. And when all was said and done, the fact that Biden was never charged came down to one thing.
We did not, however, identify evidence that rose to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the evidence fell short of that standard, I declined to recommend criminal charges against Mr. Biden.
Now, let's not forget that a major part of this hearing was Republicans hoping to keep alive Mr. Hur's gratuitous description of Biden in his report as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory and diminished faculties. While having nothing to do with the classified documents, Hur made the claim in his report that during his 5-hour interview, Biden was unable to remember key dates, including when his son Beau died of cancer. Oh, and you better believe the right wing ran with that claim as further proof that Biden is too old to be commander-in-chief. Yeah, except we now have the transcript of the interview right here that shows it was a lie. And even when Hur was called out on it today by Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, he doubled down.
I want to give you a chance, since the transcript is out, to correct the record on an important point. Very sadly, your report on page 208 says that Mr. Biden couldn't come up with the date, the year of his son Beau Biden's death, when in fact in the transcript it shows that you asked him the month. And do you know what he said, Mr. Hur? He said, oh God, May 30th. Would you like to correct the record? His memory was pretty firm on the month and the day.
Congresswoman, I don't believe that's correct with respect to the transcript.
Oh, well, Mr. Hur, we have the transcript too. And here it is, right here on page 82 and 83 of the transcript, okay? It seems that it was Biden who brought up his son's death on his own when discussing where he kept papers related to what he was working on after leaving office. And then Biden says the following, okay? Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was. And by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. Now, I'm not. It's a mean thing to say. He just thought Hillary had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point. Even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I may run for office again. But if I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening, though, what month did Beau die? Oh, God, May 30th. Then his aides chime in right away, tossing out a year. Cotton, 2015. Unidentified male speaker, 2015. Biden, was it 2015 he had died? Unidentified male speaker. It was May of 2015. Biden, it was 2015. Now, that hardly sounds like a man of diminished faculties. It sounds like a conversation. And in fact, when it came to Biden's memory, Hur actually complimented him during the interview, even though that never came up in the report.
You said to President Biden, you appear to have a photographic understanding and recall of the House. Did you say that to President Biden?
Those words do appear on page 47 of the transcript.
Photographic is what you said. Is that right?
That word does appear on page 47 of the transcript.
Never appeared in your report, though. Is that correct? The word photographic?
That does not appear in my report.
You see, funny how that happened, right? That's not to say, of course, that Biden never makes a gaffe when he's speaking. We all know that he does, but that is nothing new. And in fact, Democrats pointed out during the hearing that if Republicans were so concerned about a leading candidate's memory, they might want to look to their own party candidate. The hypocrisy doesn't stop there. Congressman Jim Jordan, a man who broke the law by defying a congressional subpoena, dramatically feigned outrage about the mishandling of classified documents.
Mr. Hur produced a 345-page report. But in the end, it boils down to a few key facts. Joe Biden kept classified information. Joe Biden failed to properly secure classified information. And Joe Biden shared classified information with people he wasn't supposed to. Joe Biden broke the law.
Hey, Jim, if you think it's a crime for Biden to have had these classified documents, some of which were actually personal diaries that he kept at his home, why don't you think it's a crime for Donald Trump to have classified documents, some classified at the highest level, including on our nuclear programs, stashed in one of his bathrooms at Mar-a-Lago? And unlike in Biden's case, there is more than enough evidence against Trump that rises to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Adding to the mountain of evidence is former Mar-a-Lago employee Brian Butler, who CNN is identifying as Trump Employee 5 in the special counsel's indictment, something NBC News has not independently confirmed. Among the events and conversations Butler claims to have told investigators about is how he unknowingly helped Trump's co-defendant, Walt Nauta, move boxes that held classified materials, as well as overhearing Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt repeat classified information after meeting with Trump.
He finishes his meeting with the former president, gets in the car, and his chief of staff says, "How did the meeting go?" Pratt, without saying, just says, "He told me," and it would be, U.S. military, classified information of what he told him about Russian submarines and U.S. submarines. And that's really all I remember hearing, and I went, what? I'm thinking this. I'm in the car, I'm like, did I just hear that?
Now, as a reminder, when that news broke last year about Trump's alleged disclosure of classified information to the Australian billionaire, Trump denied it, calling it fake news that he shared such information with the, quote, red-haired weirdo from Australia. And as you would expect, even with this latest corroboration from this former Mar-a-Lago employee, the Republicans remain silent on Trump's alleged crimes. Joining me now is Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, who, as you saw, participated in today's hearing as a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congresswoman, I have to go back and focus in on the what looks like a lie, that President Biden could not remember the thing he talks about all the time, which is the tragedy of his son's death.
Yes.
Talk about that just for a moment and how that felt in the room to have him really not want to admit that he made that up.
Well, I have to tell you, when I read the report initially, when it was released and we read the report and then we read reporting on the report, remember the report starts with this one sentence: "We conclude that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter."
Yeah.
That really could have been the summation of the report.
Yep.
But he goes on to say that many, many times. But we said initially it appeared to me gratuitous that he would throw in this information or his own reading of the president's memory. I'm not sure his expertise in that.
Right.
And I found it particularly irksome and indecent that he would quiz the president on the death of his son, Beau Biden, from brain cancer.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? A veteran and a public servant. And so when the transcript hit today, we took a look to say, did Biden really not know?
Yeah.
And of course, you read it from page 82.
Yeah.
My God, May the 30th.
Yeah.
So it was so gratuitous. And when they wrote, if you take a look at Special Counsel Herr's report, it's on page 208 that he criticizes his memory, couldn't remember this, this, and this, couldn't remember the year of Beau's death. When they were writing that and finalizing it, wouldn't you think somebody in the room would have said, wait a second, do you remember what he said early on in the transcript? My God, May the 30th. And I said, what a searing, I'm a parent myself. I have not suffered such a horrible loss. Yeah. But what a searing memory.
Absolutely.
Of course he remembered his son's death.
Absolutely. And I mean, and look, I just wrote a book. You go back and forth to the transcripts when you're trying to write based on transcripts. The lucky thing is you have the transcripts. He could have literally just looked. I want to play a back and forth that you had with Mr. Herr. And this was about what he said about Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, would present serious aggravating facts.
Keep going.
Congresswoman, I'm happy to have you read the words in my report.
Well, it's your report, so I think it actually is more fitting that you read those.
Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite.
Voila. Because the core of the Republicans' argument today, particularly Jim Jordan, was that Donald Trump and Joe Biden, President Biden and Donald Trump are being treated differently. Yeah. Clearly not.
Tremendous contrast. And Mr. Herr laid out the contrast. That's why I asked him to read
his own words. He was reading his own words. Yeah.
And he didn't want me to do that. He would have preferred I did it. He didn't want to use those damning words. But the contrast could not be clearer. We had Mr. Biden who said, come search my house, come search my office. If anything is there, take it, please. Yeah. I had no knowledge that I had any of these classified materials. And from the indictment in Mar-a-Lago, just the Mar-a-Lago indictment on these documents, do you remember the circus that was going on, the criminality that was going on? moving the documents, hiding the documents, lying to his own attorney, obstructing the FBI, obstructing justice.